The truth about being too available. You gave everything. You texted first. You checked in. Even when they didn't reply, you were consistent, present, reliable, and still, they pulled away. Now ask yourself this. What if your presence was never the problem, but your availability was? Because in this world, people don't crave what's always within reach. They crave what they can't fully hold. You don't need to chase. You just need to disappear strategically. Why pulling away makes them want you more? You've been there before. You gave someone your time, your attention, your care. And the more you showed up for them, the more they pulled away. It didn't make sense. You weren't asking for much, just a little effort in return. But somehow, the more you gave, the less they valued it. It's a brutal truth. The moment someone feels like they've fully figured you out is the moment they start losing interest. And the harder you try to fix it, the faster you fall into the trap of chasing validation. Let's flip that. What if the most powerful thing you can do isn't saying something, but saying nothing? What if real attraction, real respect, comes not from how much you give, but from when you choose to stop giving? Today, we're going to break down the psychology and strategy behind intentional withdrawal, how silence, distance, and controlled absence can shift the entire dynamic. This isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming your power by knowing when to disappear. Part 1. The Scarcity Reset. Stop being so accessible. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly missed someone who was always around, always texting back, always checking in, always there? Probably never, because the human brain isn't wired to crave what it can predict. It doesn't long for what's readily available. It desires what's rare, what disappears, and then reappears stronger. This is where most people lose the game without even knowing they're playing it. They confuse consistency with overexposure. They think effort means being constantly present. Quick replies, good morning texts, day-by-day check-ins. But here's the harsh truth. Availability kills desire. Predictability suffocates mystery. Let me show you what that looks like. There was a guy, let's call him Mark, solid dude, thoughtful, kind. Every morning, good morning, hope you have a great day. Every night, thinking of you, sleep well. He thought he was building connection. What he was actually building was routine. And routine is the graveyard of attraction. 3 weeks later, she ghosted. No fight, no warning, just silence. And he was left staring at his phone, wondering how being too present had made him invisible. The answer is simple. She never had the chance to miss him. He never gave space for mystery, for wonder, for tension. That's the power of scarcity. When your presence becomes limited, your value begins to multiply. So here's your shift. Stop flooding their world with your presence. Start treating your energy like it's gold. If you're always the one to reach out, pause. If you reply instantly, delay. If you're always available, pull back. Don't announce your withdrawal. Don't explain it. Just reduce your presence by 30%. Quietly, strategically. You don't need to disappear completely. You just need to disrupt the rhythm they've gotten comfortable with. Let your absence create friction. Let them feel the missing piece. If you are pained by anything external, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. Marcus Aurelius. This isn't about punishing them, it's about retraining yourself. To stop handing your value away so easily, because once you change how available you are, you'll notice something shifting. They'll start leaning in, asking, noticing. Because scarcity forces people to re-evaluate what they thought they had unlimited access to. And once that shift begins, you have the upper hand. Now let's go deeper, because what comes after scarcity is even more powerful. Silence. But not just any silence. Strategic, intentional, disruptive silence. Let's talk about that. Part 2. The silent disruption. When you say nothing, they hear everything. Silence is misunderstood. People think it's passive, weak, powerless. But in reality, silence is the most disorienting weapon in human interaction. Because when someone expects a reaction and gets nothing, the mind doesn't rest, it spirals. Let me show you what that looks like. There was a woman named Claire. She was used to getting attention, constant validation. People always replying, always reacting, but then she met someone different. He didn't rush to respond, didn't double text, didn't explain himself. Sometimes he'd vanish mid-conversation, not out of rudeness, but with purpose. At first, she was annoyed, then confused, then curious, and eventually obsessed. Not because he played games, but because his silence broke her pattern. You see, most people are addicted to noise, to emotional feedback, to instant answers. And when you remove that, you create a disruption in their nervous system. They don't know how to handle it. They start replaying the last interaction. What did I say? Did I do something wrong? Why haven't they replied? This is where the power flips, when your silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. But this only works if your silence has intention. So here's the strategy. Use silence as a pause, not a punishment. Disengage right after a positive interaction, when things feel good. Not when you're upset, not when you're trying to prove a point. That's what makes it powerful. It leaves them suspended in curiosity, wondering what comes next. In practice, after a deep conversation or a moment of emotional closeness, go quiet. For 24 to 48 hours, no message, no explanation, they will feel it. Because silence, when placed at the peak of emotional momentum, doesn't go unnoticed. It lingers. It forces them to question everything. And in that questioning, desire builds. So remember, don't speak to be heard, withdraw to be felt. Now that you understand the power of silence, what happens when you fully remove yourself from the dynamic? Let's go there. Let's talk about strategic absence and how vanishing at the right time can shift everything. Part 3. Strategic absence. Disappear. Intentionally, not emotionally. There's a difference between disappearing to escape and disappearing to disrupt. Most people go silent because they're hurt. They ghost, cut off, shut down. And that kind of silence, it's emotional, reactive, predictable. But strategic absence isn't about being hurt. It's about being in control. It's when you choose to step back, not because you're losing, but because you're shifting the balance. Let me give you a clear contrast. There's the guy who vanishes after being ignored, leaves in anger, unfollows, blocks. That's noise, that's reaction. Then there's the guy who senses the energy shift and simply fades. No explanation, no dramatics, just a calm surgical retreat. He doesn't leave because he's upset. He leaves because his value is being diluted. And here's the secret most never realize. When you're no longer seen, you're re-evaluated. Your absence forces a recalibration. It makes them question everything. Where did they go? Did I take them for granted? Were they always this strong? But for that to happen, your absence must feel earned. It must come at the moment when you're still desired, not when you're already discarded. That's what makes it sting. So, how do you practice strategic absence? Here's the framework. Identify the energy shift. That subtle change, less effort, colder replies, delayed interest. Stop trying to fix it. No chasing, no clarifying, no overcompensating. Step back cleanly. No closure conversation, no cryptic messages. Just stillness. Let silence be the final word. Think of it like a power move in chess. You don't chase the queen, you reposition your king. Because the moment they realize you're no longer in their orbit, they'll feel the gravitational pull return. And when they do, you're no longer where they left you. That's when power shifts. But absence alone isn't enough. If you come back the same, the effect wears off. The real flex? Evolving in silence. Let's talk about how to protect your mystery. So when you return, you're not just remembered, you're redefined. Part 4. Reclaim the mystery. Don't let them read the whole book. Attraction dies the moment you become fully known, not because people are cruel, but because certainty kills curiosity. Human beings are wired to lose interest in what they can fully explain. If you hand someone the entire blueprint of who you are, every thought, every feeling, every routine, you remove their need to explore you. You become familiar. And familiar is the enemy of fascination. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a woman named Julia, kind, expressive, open-hearted. When she liked someone, she gave them everything up front: her past, her pain, her plans, her personality. Within a week, they knew it all, and without fail, they drifted. Why? Because the mystery was gone. There were no pages left to turn. Now contrast that with someone who knows how to hold back, not in a manipulative way, but in a disciplined way. Someone who answers, but never fully, shares, but never overshares, leaves space for curiosity to grow. That person, they linger in your mind. Because every time you think you've figured them out, they show you another layer. So here's the truth. Your mystery is your leverage, and if you give it away too soon, you lose the game before it even begins. Here's how you reclaim it. Stop narrating your life in real time. They don't need to know what you're doing, thinking, or planning every hour. Answer less than you're asked. Let your replies provoke thought, not satisfy it. Let silence fill the spaces where oversharing used to live. Say things like, "I've been working on something privately. There's a part of me I don't rush to explain." Those lines do more than protect your privacy. They activate imagination. They keep you alive in their mind, long after the conversation ends. Because what people can't fully grasp, they can't fully let go of. And here's the twist. The mystery isn't just for them, it's for you too. The less you perform your identity for others, the more you get to protect your evolution. Which brings us to the final move. One that ties it all together: absence that evolves. Let's talk about what happens when your silence isn't just distance, but transformation. Part 5. Absence that evolves. Let them wonder who you're becoming. Disappearing isn't enough, because if you return unchanged, you weren't missed, you were just gone. The most dangerous kind of silence is the one where transformation happens. Not the silence of punishment, but the silence of evolution. Let me paint the picture. You step back, quietly, calmly. No drama, no closure speech, just stillness. They notice at first, then they assume you'll come back the same. Same words, same need, same dynamic. But weeks pass, and when you return, you're different. Your energy is sharper, your response is more precise, your presence quieter, but heavier. And now, they don't know how to approach you anymore. That's absence that evolves. You see, most people disappear to make someone miss them, but the real flex is returning as someone they don't fully recognize anymore. That's what shakes them. Here's the strategy. Use your silence for self-discipline. This is the time to sharpen. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Develop in private. New habits, new boundaries, new mindset. Don't announce it. Embody it. Let curiosity replace clarity. When they look at you again, let the question in their mind be, what happened while they were gone? Because once they realize they no longer have access to the version of you they once knew, they'll feel the loss for real. This is how you stop being someone they used to text and become someone they quietly watch from a distance, wondering how they let you go. So here's a challenge. Give yourself 7 days, no contact, no stories, no checking in, just silence and self-work. Don't do it for revenge, do it for the return, because when your absence carries growth, your presence becomes untouchable. And now that you've mastered the art of pulling away, let's bring it full circle. Let's wrap up everything you've learned and talk about how to own this new version of yourself without ever chasing again. You don't need to chase what's meant to notice your absence. So let's bring this full circle. You don't need to text first. You don't need to over-explain. You don't need to prove your worth by staying visible. Because once you understand the psychology of space, you realize something brutal and freeing. Presence doesn't create value. Selective presence does. Let's recap what you've done. You stopped being overly accessible. You created room for absence to speak. You used silence not to punish, but to disrupt their emotional rhythm, a calm, grounded stillness that echoed louder than words. You didn't beg for clarity. You withdrew with composure, right when the energy started shifting. You reclaimed your mystery. You stopped narrating your life and became harder to define. And most importantly, you didn't just disappear. You evolved, silently, unapologetically, on your own terms. And now, you've made it unmistakably clear. You're not someone to chase. You're someone to miss. Someone to reevaluate, someone they never really had access to in the first place. This is how you flip the entire dynamic without ever raising your voice. No confrontation, no emotional breakdown, just stillness with weight. Because that's the kind of presence people remember, not the one that begged to stay, but the one that disappeared and came back different. The best revenge is to be unlike him who caused the injury. Marcus Aurelius now. If you're ready to go even deeper, if you want to master emotional control, quiet dominance, and the power of withholding, then don't miss the next video. Watch. The Art of Emotional Withholding, Power in Silence. It's not about vanishing, it's about becoming unreadable, untouchable, uncontrolled, because that is where real power lives.